Hey all, welcome back to the channel. It's Monday, that means it's countdown day. And you know what? This is a really interesting topic. A lot of people actually, when they voted, said, wow, what an interesting question. And we all know that any good kind of force, military, team, kind of army, whatever, wants the most powerful fighters. Well, the world of the Transformers is absolutely no different. Of course, that being said, there are certain characters within Transformers that might be a little too powerful. An overpowered living arsenal, if you will. And that's going to be our topic this time. The top 10, as voted on by fans, Transformers that are overpowered living arsenals. That's going to be our topic this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube at any time and become a channel member. And yes, indeed, as I say this topic, some people out there are going to say, is there such a thing as having somebody on your team who's overpowered, who's too strong, who's too much of an arsenal and a fearsome force? Indeed, when they're power may very well be considered limitless, reckless, or all around uncontrolled. And this is, as voted on again by fans, the top 10 overpowered, right? They have just too much, either too much of an arsenal or just plain too much power for one bot to handle. And as always, we're going to kick things off with number 10, as always, we're going to start with our honorable mentions first. Oh yeah, I got ahead of myself there. In our honorable mentions, we actually have two characters who never made it on the list, but they made a good push to try, and both of them are Titans. In the honorable mentions, we have the living arsenal himself, Trypticon, who I honestly thought was going to be on the list. He came oh so very, very close. And naturally, when you think of Trypticon and you think of him in the video games or in the cartoon or even in the comics, I mean, the guy has a blaster in his head. He has blasters on his chest, all over his body. When he transforms, he retains those blasters, even on his tail. So there was a strong argument for it. The other honorable mention is another Titan, that being Trypticon's counterpart, Metroplex. And indeed, Metroplex has shoulder cannons and missiles. He has, a hand blaster or two, depending on the Metroplex that you're looking at. There are certain iterations where his eyes have been blasters. There are certain iterations where he has on the side of his chest a bunch of missile pods. Again, very overpowered, very close to being on the list. Didn't make it. Trypticon, Metroplex, both very strong. And consider now what the list must consist of. If Metroplex and Trypticon are both just honorable mentions. Think about that, because we're getting ready to kick things off with number 10. First, coming in at number 10 is a character that never even started out in G1. He came a little bit later, but has become known as a hulking bruiser among the Decepticons. I'm talking about Lugnut, specifically the animated, but I'm okay with representing that with the Reveal the Shield, I think it was. Lugnut, I mean, he has no time for strategy, no thought of strategy. He just goes in and obliterates and destroys Autobots, all in the name of loyalty to Megatron. He is a bruiser that has an almost impenetrable hide, as well as a veritable, limitless supply of missiles. And, of course, his most powerful of offensive weaponry arsenal, that being the poke. The punch to kill everything. When your punch has that much of a wallop to it, how can you not be one of the most overpowered of all Transformers? Lugnut, he took the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9, we have a character who has pretty much an impenetrable armor. He has a couple of electrostatic guns, he has a metal-eating blaster in his forehead, and he even has pretty much an endless supply of like plasma explosives. I'm talking, of course, about Thunderwing, and that is just based on the kind of G1 Pretender. Let's not even get into his formidability in the comic books and in the most recent IDW iteration, where he is really considered to be like a god-level threat because of his imperviousness, because of his arsenal covering his entire body, and even because of his ability and link to be able to handle and control or destroy the creation matrix. Everything about Thunderwing, from his obsessive compulsive desire for power, to his offensive weaponry, to his defensive armor, to his ability to be someone who can handle a matrix, everything about Thunderwing is overpowered. And for that reason, he takes the number 9 slot. Coming in at number 8, we have he who is a champion within the pits of Kaon. I'm talking about Megatron. And he has so many versions. If he's a helicopter, it's armored. If he's a plane, it's armored. If he's tanks, it's armored. If we go back to G1, sometimes the guy has a sword, sometimes the guy has a mace, or a flail, if you will. Sometimes the guy handles a pistol, sometimes the guy is a pistol. And then you have the fusion cannon that has a link to being able to like open black holes. Like, everything about Megatron screams threatening. Everything about Megatron screams invincible. Everything about Megatron should make you shudder and quake, because when you face him, you don't know what sort of arsenal is going to come your way and what sort of destructive feats he's going to pull off. Megatron, he takes the number 8 slot. Number 7 takes us to the live-action franchise, and this guy, Hound. Yeah, you don't have to look any further than the Age of Extinction kind of big battle near the end. I think it was in China, when Hound and a few of the Autobots were taking on all of Galvatron's, I don't know what you call them, Viacons, I guess, and maybe some of the minions of Lockdown while they were at it. Anyway, you cut it. This guy went in against all of those enemies, guns blazing. He blasted everything until he was out of ammo, and even then the guy didn't want to give up. He was willing to fight and, I guess, defend until the very bitter end, and very effective at doing so. If he was going to go down, everyone was going to go down with him. It's hard to argue with the amount of arsenal that this guy has and what he was able to accomplish with it. The guy was overpowered. It's no doubt about it, and enthusiastically so. Age of Extinction, Last Night, Movieverse, Hound takes the number 7 slot. Number 6 takes us to the Japanese G1 continuity and God Ginrai. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to being overpowered, when it comes to being more than, when God is in your name, that says something. When your partner has both the words God and Bomber in their name, it's hard to say that it's not overpowered. When you have a shoulder cannon, a couple of shoulder cannons, when you have the kind of Power Master Optimus Prime Super Ginrai shoulder blasters, when you have there's another blaster that he holds in his hand, and then as if all of those blasters aren't enough, then you have a sword. And don't even get me started on the upgrade to Fire Guts and that attack. Everything about God Ginrai, again, spells a god-level threat, at least as far as the Decepticons go. It is the ultimate in Autobot defense, and for that reason, God Ginrai takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd, because we have reached the most coveted of locations, the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we delve into the world of the Wreckers with Roadbuster. When your entire existence relies on combat and having more arsenal and more arsenal and more arsenal, eventually you become very overpowered, both in terms of your skill and ability and the armament that you carry upon your body. And such is the case with Roadbuster. He is so skilled at being a leader on the battlefield that others follow him confidently, and he inspires other Autobots into combat. He is such a combatant, he inspires other combatants. On his body, I mean, he's armed right to the 9th degree, to the teeth, if you will. I mean, a missile pod on his legs, on his arm, on his 2 shoulders, in his hand, all over the place. And he can use them all extremely effectively. When your identity is that of a combatant, it's hard to not be overpowered. And enough fans felt the same way that Roadbuster was able to take the number 5 slot. At number 4, we have Omega Supreme, represented here by the Weijiang Ultima Guard. And I get it. I mean, the back of Omega Supreme's head is a tank turret. Part of his body, the main part of his body, is a tank. Then in robot mode, both of his hands have blasters. I mean, he doesn't even have hands. He has one claw, and if that claw opens, there's a blaster in there, and the other hand is literally a blaster. When you're this big, when your hide is this powerful and impenetrable, when the back of your head can fire, when both of your hands can fire, and when you can even, if I can do it here, yeah, open up your chest, and you have more blasters in there, how can you deny that this guy's overpowered? Omega Supreme. Yeah, he took the number 4 slot. At number 3, we have a character who has the word shot in his name, and he's noted as being a ninja on top of that. We're talking about 6 Shot. Look, the guy is noted to be a martial arts master and a Decepticon ninja. Whether you agree with that description or not is irrelevant because it's how he's described, which says that his ability in combat, especially in hand-to-hand combat, and I guess using the accessories of a ninja, is top-notch. He's a master. But then he also has shot in his name. And he can turn into an armored car. That's very powerful. He can turn into a vicious animal. He can turn into an actual blaster or a submarine. He can turn, of course, into a robot and so on and so forth. He's overpowered with 6 modes. He's overpowered in his hand-to-hand combat ability. He's overpowered in his firepower. He's even overpowered in the fact that he can clone and duplicate himself, certainly at least in terms of holograms, and in essence be a veritable army of one. How can you argue with 6 Shot and his power? Yeah, 6 Shot. He took, according to fan votes, the number 3 slot. By the way, I'll note it now that we are at the top 2, but honestly, the voting was very close everywhere on this list. No one was a far and away winner. It was amazingly close races the whole way through, including number 2 and number 1, who were separated by only 3 votes. Coming in at number 2 is he who has, well, his own weapons factory within his body. I'm talking about Overlord. Look, again, you want to talk about overpowered. I mean, Overlord, in whatever fiction he wants to be in, is considered usually a god-level threat, can hold his own against pretty much anybody, even God Ginrai. We have seen him at times go up against combiners. He overpowers most of his foes. His body is mostly impenetrable. These are missiles over here. He of course has his cannon here. He can split his body into a plane that is full of arsenal and a tank that is also an arsenal. And within his body he can make even more arsenal because he has a factory that makes it within him. How can you argue with Overlord's impenetrability and self-made weaponry? Yeah, the dude is overpowered and he took the number 2 slot. And now here we are, the very tippy top of number 1. And number 1 is overpowered right down to his name. And I'm talking about, Fortress Maximus. Now, to be fair, most of the people that voted for Fort Max voted for the G1 version. I don't have that, so we're just going to represent it here with the Titan's Return. His name is Fortress, which pretty much means impenetrable. He's a fortress. But he's not just a fortress. He's a maximum fortress. He's a Maximus fortress. He turns into a battleship and a base. Not just a base, but a fortified base. On top of that, he has blasters, cannons, if you will, that come out from the side of his body around his ribs, his hips. He has blasters and cannons on his legs. He has a blaster he holds in his hand. And if that's not enough, he comes with a gigantic sword that's so powerful. It's not just the sword, it's the master sword. It is the master of all swords. The ultimate in overpower, the ultimate in armament, the ultimate in defense and offense. Fortress Maximus easily took, can't even say easily because the voting was close, but he deservedly took the #1 slot. And there we have it, 10 down to 1 once again. And you know what? There were a lot of other great characters who got votes. Cybertron Optimus Prime, the Omega Prime from RID 2001, I think it was. Some know it as like Godfire Convoy. Galvatron, the Age of Extinction Galvatron, because he could like control all of those other Viacons, right? What else do we have here? Demolisher got a vote. Tarn got some votes, and he well deserves them. Minimus Ambus, or I guess Ambus Magnus, Ultra Magnus from IDW, whatever you want to call it. Predaking, I mean, the guy has over-the-shoulder cannons. Not to mention he's made up of 5 ferocious animals. The 07 Brawl, big bad tank. You have Beast Wars Rampage got some votes. I mean, the guy feeds on fear. Hard to be more powerful than that. Thrilling 30 Skids. I mean, he has missile launchers, or missile bays, I guess I should say, in both of his shoulders. Not to mention all of his other armament, which is ironic since he's generally considered to be a pacifist. Straxus Optimus Primal, because he has that skull mace thing. He has his 2 big swords. He has his over-the-shoulder like missile pod things, right? Or blasters. Red Cog with everything he comes with. Unicron, the dude eats planets. Bruticus, made up of military vehicles. Hard to not be overpowered when you're made up of military vehicles. Universe Drop Shot, Lockdown, Quick Switch, Great Shot. Quick Switch and Great Shot, of course, they would be the same sort of reasoning as Six Shot had, right? Six Gun, name says it all. Rung had some votes. Rhinox, Big Convoy. Need I say more? Big Convoy. Bludgeon. Who else? Thunderclash. I mean, how many missiles does Thunderclash have? Animated Swindle, same thing. The armed up arms dealer, if you will, right? Regular Cog. Roadblock. The Pretender Roadblock. And last but not least, the Autobot weapons expert, Bay vs. Ironhide. So many overpowered characters, whether it's because of their arsenal or whether it's because of their sheer power or their impenetrability. So many great characters, so many great votes. Let me know if your favorites made the list. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube at any time and become a channel member. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way right here inside the videos.